Liberals control everything. Council members rip Chicago leadership for refusing to budge on sanctuary law. I don't understand. How can you put other people before your own people? How can you put other people before your own constituents? How many people have to come up and yell and scream and argue with Brandon Johnson before he do something about this, before he give in and allow the federal government to come in and clean up this mess? You know, I don't understand. This is why I believe George Soros is funding Mayor Brandon Johnson. I don't have any proof to it, but I believe he has some very powerful people backing this, because why else would someone turn their back on their own people? Like, I don't understand. So we're gonna talk about it, but before we get started, go ahead and hit that like button, share this out so we can get this information out there. Subscribe if you're not already a subscriber, and hit that alarm bell so you know when I'm putting out new stuff. Also, check out my link tree in the description. Has a link to my Patreon. That's where I talk about things that I can't talk about here. There's also a link to my Instagram and my X account, so follow me there as well. All right, so let's get into this news. Now, this comes from the Daily Caller, and they report that as deportation officers continue to zero in on Chicago and Republican officials gear up for investigations into the mayor, moderate aldermen are bemoaning city's leadership reluctance to wind back its strict sanctuary policy. The Trump administration is executing large-scale immigration enforcement operations across the United States and making Chicago a top target, in large part because of the city's laws restricting cooperation between local police and immigration and customs enforcement, or ICE agents. You would think you would want them to work together to minimize collateral damage, collateral pickups, because if Mayor Johnson really cared about the illegal immigrants like he said he did, like he does, he would want to help clean up, get the criminals off the street, and that way there's no collateral pickups from the other illegal immigrants that aren't breaking any laws other than the law of them, coming into the country illegally. They're not really breaking any other laws. You would think to help them out, he would cooperate with the federal government, but he's refusing to. Border czar Tom Homan has argued that localities that work with ICE agents make it easier to focus on criminal migrants, as agents are not forced to make apprehensions throughout the community at large. That's exactly what I was just alluding to. They wouldn't have to run up into the community and stuff like that if they were working with the local police. But despite pressure from the White House and national surveys indicating the majority of Americans support enforcement of immigration laws, Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson has defiantly stood by the city's sanctuary law. Some of the few moderate members of the Chicago City Council have become frustrated over the matter. Quote, "The liberals control everything," Chicago Alderman Nicholas Sposato said to the Daily Caller News Foundation. "So if they want to remain a sanctuary city and protect criminals over law-abiding citizens in our community, then I guess that's the way it's going to be." It's crazy. Sposato was one of only 11 aldermen in January who voted in favor of a proposed amendment to Welcoming City Ordinance, WCO, which prohibits any cooperation between Chicago authorities and ICE agents. The amendment called for cooperation in circumstances when the wanted illegal migrant has been involved in serious criminal activity. The proposal was smacked down by the city council's liberal majority in a 39-11 vote. That's just crazy. Alderman Raymond Lopez, who proposed the amendment along with another Democrat, ripped the decision to stand by the current policy. He said, quote, "It shouldn't take an act of Congress or city council, for that matter, to say we're not going to protect child sexual predators and human traffickers. But yet, that's exactly what the city did. The city council did when it rejected the amendment that would allow for our police officers to work with our federal partners when someone is arrested or convicted of 4 very specific violent and dangerous criminal crime categories," Lopez said to the DCNF. Those four categories include illegal migrants arrested or convicted over sexual crimes against minors. You would think you would want them locked up, right? And shipped out. Gang related activities, drug related activities, or prostitution related activities. Like, these are major things that you would think you will want these people gone. He said, quote, my colleagues have said if ICE wants them, ICE can go get them in the neighborhoods themselves. We're not going to help, Lopez continued. Well, who does that really help, right? That was my sentiments exactly. The Windy City has been hit particularly hard by the border crisis that began under the Biden administration. More than 51,000 migrants have flocked to Chicago since August 2022, requiring housing, food, and other accommodations. Local taxpayers have shelled out hundreds of millions of dollars in the process. Think about it. Those are hundreds of millions of dollars that could have gone back to the community to help the community. In the days leading up to the amendment vote, Lopez argued that that allowing ICE agents to pick up criminal illegal migrants at Chicago jail detention facilities will help otherwise law-abiding illegal illegal migrants in the city, as it kept deportation officers from making arrests out in the community. This is a point Holman has repeatedly made, having previously told the DCNF that he is focusing on the worst first, but cautioned that deportation officers won't hesitate to arrest any other illegal migrant during a raid if they happen to come across one. Yeah, what it is just supposed to let them go, you know? Johnson's office reportedly distributed a memo to members of the city council ahead of the vote, telling aldermen that the proposal would lead to over-policing of Black and brown communities. President Donald Trump has so far followed through on campaign pledges to execute an ambitious immigration enforcement agenda, having immediately declared a national emergency at the U.S.-Mexico border and deploying troops to help Border Patrol's mission in stemming unlawful crossings. The administration has also ramped up ICE enforcement actions immediately. Incredibly, sorry. ICE daily arrests have repeatedly exceeded 1,000, according to the memos published by the agency. To put this figure into perspective, the daily ICE arrests under the Biden administration average to roughly 310 in fiscal year 2024. That's despicable. As federal immigration authorities carry on with their mission, the administration has taken particular interest in Chicago. During an ICE raid in Chicago earlier in January, Acting Deputy Attorney General Emil Bove was reportedly on the ground and monitoring the action. I reported on that, watching for any possible interference by city officials. Bove's presence at the raid follows the Justice Department's creation of a task force dedicated to investigating sanctuary jurisdictions and waging a lawsuit against any locality that is deemed to be in defiance of the federal law. Additionally, the House Oversight and Government Reform Committee delivered a letter to Johnson announcing an investigation into his city sanctuary policies. The letter, which was also delivered to 3 other mayors, asked Johnson to hand over pertinent internal documentation and communications and requested he testify before the committee in February. So, quote, Chicago is in the crosshairs of the Trump administration, and we continue to maintain that place with all of the pointless, endless political bluster coming out of the mouths of Brandon Johnson and his hyper-liberal socialist enablers. Lopez, a Democrat, said to the DCNF. I mean, even Democrats are tired of these leftist progressives, these liberals. Lopez, who himself has Mexican roots, said the immigrant community wants to see criminal illegal migrants be removed, arguing that they hurt their community's image. Yeah, because think about it. If you got these really, really bad people in their community, and mind you, these people are already here illegal. I'm talking about the so-called law-abiding ones. They're already here illegally. They're not going to call the police if they're being terrorized and things like that because they're afraid of being deported themselves. So they want these criminals out of their communities as well. But, quote, even undocumented individuals want the criminals deported or expelled because it taints them as well, he said. That's what I was just alluding to. It stains their existence here by being lumped into one category with those folks. He goes on to say, I think that is what helped fuel the anger within the Latino community, specifically the Mexican American voting bloc, because they saw that they saw it as a slap in the face to all of their trials and tribulations, especially those that know or have relatives or friends who are still struggling for a path and were completely forgotten by the Democratic Party in order to make way for the migrant asylum seekers, he said. Wow, wow, wow. But Johnson, he's on borrowed time. Mayor Johnson's on borrowed time. I can see them kicking him out of office. I can see them trying to get him out of office with what is it called when you do a gosh, my mind's drawing a blank. My mind is drawing a blank. But I definitely can see them recalling. That's the word. I can see them recalling him or something and getting rid of this guy. He's one of the worst, most corrupt mayors, I believe, in Chicago history, and that's saying something. You know how bad Chicago has been over the years. But y'all let me know what y'all think about this. Leave your comments down below. Like, share, and subscribe, and check out jjthepsychotherapist.com for the latest in news. Until next time, peace.